Welcome to Modulations, and I'm going to my microphone a bit. That sounds a bit too punchy. That's better. So earlier on, I posted an audio post on Substack demonstrating Battalion in conjunction with Pure Strings, which you can see here on the screen. We've got on the left-hand side the Battalion drum machine synthesizer sampler plugin, and then we have Woodpecker, which is a sequencer. I've only had for a very short while. I haven't really got to dig into it fully just yet. So this is something I will explore in more depth over the coming weeks. And that's driving Pure Strings. So we can trigger that off by start. I think that's already running actually. And then fade this in. Maybe it's not running. Let's try again. Yeah, so there we go. Just going to fade it out for a minute. And then we have the Battalion drum machine, which sounds like this. And then we have various effects on each of these channels. So we've got these three channels. The microphone one, the third one in, it's currently not in use. It's just that I'm going to do is just turn it off completely. If you route it to send bus A, and that's got a limiter on it. But we can also throw in one of these, which is a silo effect. I'm going to load the random preset. And we will talk more about Songlow another point in time. I wanted to really sort of focus on Battalion really today. Hit play again. That's going to just quiet silence me for a minute. Getting back into Battalion. To give you a run through of the screens, you've got along the bottom here this little menu, you've got voice, perform, sequencer, and there's a view called all, which gives you like a kind of bird's eye view of everything. And you have a mixer, FX page as well, which is pretty self-explanatory. So let's start off with the voices. At the moment we're using a preset called Maya Poix, I think it's pronounced as, and we have 8 channels in total, and each one of these channels, as you can, we've got a combination of synth. So along the top, if you go, I think I have my mouse set up for this, it'll be much clearer. You have a selection of synth modules along the top. We're going to get into the drop down, and we can see we've got 24 of them in total. So the first track is a kick, the second track uses the FM synth, third uses LPG, 4 uses another FM, 5 is another kick, 6 is a cowbell, 7 is FM again, and pillow is 8. Pillow is like a kick synth. So the majority of these synths are all geared for drums. But you can, of course, load up your own samples. If you see on track number 2, for example, we have an FM synth blended with a sample, and it sounds like this. So the snare sound, whereas the kick sounds like that. Snare. And you can see that if you look to the right of the synth and sampler sections, there's a blend control, which is this one here. So that's going to tweak that. And we could see what's happening there. So it's blending between the synth, the FM synth, and the sample, which is a recording of a snare, basically. Excuse me, that's my phone going off there. So yeah, we can combine synths and samples together. The next important thing to note is that underneath each of the synth modules, there's always a pitch control, and then there's 3 or 4 other controls for example, we've got ratio, depth, and feedback, and envelope controls for the FM. If I go back to the kick drum, you can see you've got I think it's pitch decay, pitch depth, I think, and a waveform setting and a sub oscillator as well. The LPG has a fold, shape, noise, and damp. So LPG is like a sort of wave folding synth, I think. It's not FM, but this one you can see the knobs have been modulated. It's thanks to the LFO envelopes are modulating that particular sound. So if I just solo this sound and play it, you'll see what I mean. So you have this lovely modulation across that sound all the time, as the pitch and ratio and cutoff are being modulated. So you have that 24 different kind of synth modules there with 4 controls. It reminds me a lot of the Electron machines like the Syntax and the Digitact in many ways. I think it's probably quite heavily inspired by those. Then under sampler we have 5 different sampling engines, including classic, phase warp, cloner, granular synthesis is supported in this as well, and garbage phi. I can't remember what that does. We will explore all of these things in more depth in further videos. This is just an overview really of this particular recording I made in the last post. And then under sampler, once again, you have different controls depending on which sampler you've selected. So classic, you have pitch, fine, tilt, compression, and gain. You also have the ability to load in different samples from, so if I wanted to load a random sample, for example, I could, or go into factory samples, and you can see you got a whole host of different samples, and there's 1,000 in total built into this app. And then of course you can use your own samples as well. I've got a library, so you've got one here called, you may not be able to see it on the screen, but Beam Engine Water Pump, which is a recording I made recently at Crofton Beam Engines in Wiltshire. And that's a sound I'm going to bring in some future projects using Battalion. So plenty of fun ahead, plenty of things to explore with this plugin. And then moving over to the right, we have, looking at the different columns here, we've got tone and modulation, envelope 1 and 2, LFO1, LFO2, and then down the bottom we have variation, sends, mixer. On the right hand side you have the master channels, which are pretty self-explanatory. But you'll see above some of these controls, there's this little button here, and that's where you can set the modulation on that particular control, or rather what that particular control has control over in terms of modulation. So you can see here that envelope 1 controls the pitch, the decay, depth and sub, resonance cutoff and distortion for track number 5, and it also has control over some other knobs. So you can see, if you look really closely, you can see where it's got the main marker on the knob, and there's like a faint light grey one as well, which sort of shows you where the range is in that particular modulation. It's quite similar to Ableton. Again, there's some other influences in here. I think Ableton is definitely an influence on how these controls look. So you can, of course, turn off, directly control these things in real time as well, if you want to. So that's a rough guide to each of those sections. I think I shared from my chat and Substack a video that Jacob Hack put together. It was like a full 2 hours long, something like that. Was it just an hour? A really long video they did, a deep dive into this app and going into extreme detail on everything. And this video is not going to be one of those mega deep dives, obviously, you can tell. I'm just sort of skimming over the main features, and then we'll come back to different things in future videos as we talk about this app as being one of sort of the main tools that I'm going to use going forward. But an interesting one, I think, is once we've still got a particular drum soloed, is variation. Doesn't really demonstrate that well. So I want you to effect some variations on the kick. And what this does is it applies variations to all of the controls on this particular screen. And you can do the same, but then all the other tracks have their own variation knobs. Basically, so there's eight variation knobs in total. So you have a lot of control over the sort of sonic possibilities with all of the tracks in this particular machine. It's going to perform. You can see we've got control of attack, hold, decay, curve, pitches for I'm going to say all of the tracks there. I'm sure what it's marked 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh no, it's and the quickest way to vary this is to hit the dice. Dice appears across the whole app, very useful. I set the percentage of wild. And you can do some crazy stuff. I just go for the mod amp knob alone here, or the variation, the macros. I'm going to change the steps of everything to not many steps at all, and fill it like crazy. You get mad. Reset it. set the probability to something low. You'd expect it to trigger less often. Yeah, and then of course you have the classic cut-offs and resonance filter buttons up here. Reset it again back to where you were at the start. Next up we have the sequencer, and so looking at the kick drum for example, bum, bum, bum. Snare, you can see the pink dots there. These are all manually set. Let's say I wanted to add in a fill to the snare. The snare has 16 steps, and at the moment there's no fill, but if I tweak that to 4, you see sort of grey dots have been added in, and we're adding extra hits. Changing the pattern, placing further variations to that pattern, again back down to 0, just where you were at the start, or 1 rather, and up to some much wilder beats going on. Rotate just simply nudges those beats along a step at a time. Reset it, reset that. You back to the programmed hit where you were at the start. So I have this pillow down here, you can set that to. And we can go further still with this section here. It's currently velocity set, so I want it to set on the snare a variety of different velocities, so I can hit the dice icon to give me some randomized options. Let's go to track 3, do the same thing there. Do it across the board with all the other tracks as well. But supposing on the snare I wanted to shift the notes a little bit, select shift down here on the right hand side, hit the dice. I can also manually set them with my fingertips. Shift nudges the notes off the grid. Give you a bit more of a sort of swing. I'm just going to move myself up a little bit on the screen, or move myself up the screen. And you can of course control the panning as well. So the snare is now dancing around the stereo field. Probability. Let's say we want it to play hardly at all. Oh, bear in mind that it's only playing like one hit anyway, so it's not having an effect. 100% always plays. It sounds different. Dial it down to negative. If we want to view everything on one screen, hit the All button, and now you can see all the patterns in this particular preset. Let's say I wanted to introduce some polyrhythms. Let's set the lengths, the steps to different values across the board. I want to throw in some more snares. I'm going to just change the fill here to 8. for a small in. I want to go for more kicks. I'll just dial up the fill on the kicks. It's a beauty. Humanize, you can throw in more of a humanized variation to the rhythm. We can shift things around by adjusting the shift knobs for all of the tracks independently. The swing can be independent for each of the different tracks, which makes it even more crazy. You can change the shape of the pattern. I'm never quite sure what shape means. I think it's the way the playhead moves across. You can see it moves at different speeds to the rest of them. If I adjust one of them to be at 100%, it seems to move way faster than the others. So we've now really varied our track quite some amount. Now it sounds rather different. And then finally we have the mixer. Let's say on the kick drum one time some more delay. And start out, this is very much like the Electron machines. The interface looks a bit like the Electron machines. Let's throw in some more reverb on the kicks, which is a bit weird in my opinion. We have reverb and kicks. Maybe on snares if you're making 80s music. Which was famous for applying reverb to everything. So there we are. I think that covers it nicely. So I will do a lot more on this particular plugin in conjunction with other plugins. I will look at some of its other more advanced features as well, such as the ability to have multiple output channels from Battalion, so that you can apply different effects to each of the channels that you might have. For example, like a bit of black hole reverb, Eventide plugins. You might want to apply some other desert cities. You might want to apply some tape emulations and stuff like that to different tracks, and not to all of the tracks, because at the moment, if I want to apply effects to Battalion, as quickly as going back into these other plugins. This is just quickly before we go. There we go. Wonderful stuff. Anyway, that's enough for this video. There'll be more coming up on modulations. Do like and subscribe on Substack, and do the same on YouTube, because these videos are also published to YouTube under the same name, Modulations. So thank you, and see you soon. Bye for now.